What is up, demigods, monsters, and gods alike? This is the Olympus Report. The Magnus Chase series is all about Norse mythology and the gods of Asgard. Sound familiar? Well, there were a couple low-budget films made on the same topic. So how does Magnus Chase compare to Marvel's Thor? Well, according to Magnus's uncle Randolph, those movies are ridiculously inaccurate. So how does the movies compare to the books? Here's everything you need to know. First, we should start with the similarities. In both universes, there are 9 realms, Earth, Midgard being one of them. And within these 9 realms, there are what are considered Norse gods. And they share the same names, and that's kind of it. So now the differences. The first major difference is the existence of demigods, half mortal and half god children produced from a mortal and a god. Basically, in the RiordanVerse, gods run around Earth having children with mortals, which is very different than the universe the MCU presents. These demigods, specifically the Norse kind, are able to travel between the 9 realms very easily, something that only gods could do in Thor. Now on to Valhalla. In Thor, Valhalla is a paradise that warriors and gods of Asgard go to after death if deemed worthy. In Magnus Chase, it's similar but not quite the same. For one, the gods in the Magnus Chase universe don't ever really die. And anyone who dies with a weapon in their hand and is seen by a Valkyrie who deems them worthy is able to go to Valhalla. And Valhalla in the Magnus Chase universe is more of a hotel where our warriors stay and train until Ragnarok. Unlike the Ragnarok in Thor, which just destroyed Asgard, Ragnarok in the RiordanVerse will destroy all the 9 realms. So basically, being sent to Valhalla in Magnus Chase, you become a warrior of Odin known as an Inheri, and your main goal is to train for Ragnarok. And it's not really a peaceful existence. Valkyries in both universes are similar, warriors chosen by Odin to be his elite force. But in Thor, the Valkyries are exclusively Asgardian, and in Magnus Chase, that's not the case. Now on to the gods. There are some similarities here, but mostly differences. The god that I think is most alike in both franchises is Loki. Essentially, Loki just wants to see the world burn, and is evil and manipulative. But whereas Loki in Magnus Chase is just simply evil, as seen in Thor, that Loki does have a change of heart in the end. Power-wise, they're also pretty similar. Illusions, shape-shifting, deception, that sort of stuff. A major difference, though, is that in Magnus Chase, Loki is not Thor's brother, and was imprisoned for 1,000 years, being chained to a slab as snake's venom dripped onto his face. Also in Magnus Chase, Loki is a pure god and is not a frost giant as seen in Thor. Up next, we have the god of thunder. So we all know Thor as looking like Chris Hemsworth. But in Magnus Chase, this is how Magnus described him. A muscle-bound, red-headed fart machine. In fact, Magnus has said that his father, Frey, is actually way more similar in looks to Marvel's Thor than Thor from Magnus Chase. In Marvel, Thor wasn't the sharpest, but he clearly wasn't stupid. And in Magnus Chase, Thor has little going for him besides his strength. As well, the Thor from Magnus Chase has 2 goats that he eats every night, and then the goats are reincarnated the next morning. And they're also kind of like his servants and messengers as well. Thor from Marvel, in the newest installment, does get 2 goats, but they're a little different as these ones just scream, and the goats from Magnus Chase can actually talk. Thor from the RiordanVerse is also obsessed with sitcoms that he watches in his hammer. In the MCU, only those deemed worthy could lift Mjolnir. But in Magnus Chase, that's not exactly the case, as Thor's trusty hammer has been stolen multiple times and is the key conflict in the second book, The Hammer of Thor.
Although power-wise they're pretty similar, the whole strength and God of Thunder thing.
Up next we have Heimdall, who in both universes is in charge of guarding the Bifrost. And once again, that's kind of where the similarities end. In Thor, Heimdall is a stoic warrior, and in Magnus Chase, he's a selfie-obsessed stalker of sorts. Magnus describes him as the goofy guy you didn't want to sit next to on the school bus. And finally, we have Odin, who, like Loki, is very similar in both incarnations. He's essentially the head honcho of all Norse gods and is all-knowing. But the Odin from Magnus Chase does prefer to give out his information in PowerPoints. And Odin from the RiordanVerse can also send out crows as messengers and spies, something we haven't seen from Marvel. Overall, I think both franchises are great, and I thoroughly enjoy both. Each has its negatives and its positives, and if the stories were too similar, it would get boring to read or watch twice. So let me know which incarnation of the gods you prefer down below in the comments. And as always, until next time, stay safe.